The news spread through the village before the morning mist had cleared. Mr. Okori had been found at the bottom of a deep pit behind his own farmland, broken, bruised, and calling out into an empty sky. Neighbors gathered in whispers. Some shook their heads. Others already suspected that this was not merely an accident. Everyone in the village knew Okori and Chinedu. They lived side by side, farmed the same red earth, and drank from the same stream. But while the land seemed to reward one man generously, it only frustrated the other. Chinedu was the kind of farmer people spoke of with warmth. His yam heaps were always full, his maize always tall and heavy. More than his harvest, people admired the way he carried himself, quietly, without boasting, always the first to share what he had and the last to ask for anything in return. During lean seasons, he gave. During celebrations, he served. The village loved him for it. Okori watched all of this with clenched teeth. He planted the same crops, he woke just as early, he worked just as hard, or so he told himself, yet nothing flourished the way it did for Chinedu, and every compliment the village gave his neighbor felt like a thorn pressed deeper into his pride. Over the years, admiration curdled into envy, and envy hardened into something uglier. Then, one night, jealousy finally spoke, and Okori listened. Under the cover of darkness, he took his hoe and walked to the narrow dirt path that Chinedu used every morning on his way to the farm. The path was quiet and familiar. Okori dug carefully and deliberately, scooping out a pit deep enough to swallow a man whole. He covered the opening lightly with dried leaves and thin sticks. By the time he returned home, he was already picturing it. Chinedu limping, Chinedu bedridden, Chinedu no longer the man everyone praised. With that thought warming him like fire, he slept. But sleep did not last long. Before dawn, a restless excitement pulled him out of bed. He wanted to inspect the trap, to confirm everything was in place before Chinedu set out. He stepped outside into the thick morning fog, moving quickly through the dark. He never reached the path. The ground simply vanished beneath his feet. In his eagerness and the blinding darkness, he had forgotten where exactly he had dug. One careless step was all it took. He plunged into the earth with a sickening crash, the same earth he had hollowed out for another man. His cries rose and fell with the morning wind for hours before anyone heard him. When the villagers finally pulled him out, his legs were broken and his face was pale with pain and something else, something harder to name. By the time he lay in a bed at the local clinic, the truth had already followed him there. Several villagers had spotted him digging in the dark the night before. The story assembled itself without much help. The village fell silent in a particular way, the silence of people who understand that justice sometimes moves without being called. But the story did not end with Okori in pain. It ended with Chinedu walking through the clinic door. Without a word about what Okori had planned, without anger, without conditions, Chinedu settled the hospital bills. He sent food. He arranged for someone to check on Okori during his recovery. He did it the same way he did everything else, quietly, without making a performance of his kindness. When Okori learned it was Chinedu who had paid, he turned his face to the wall and wept. His bones would heal in time, but the weight that settled on him in that moment, the full, crushing shame of what he had intended and what Chinedu had done in return, that was a different kind of pain entirely. The village talked about it for a long time after. Not as a story about a pit, but as a story about what hatred builds for itself and what grace quietly refuses to become.